I just can't get this video camera to turn on. Okay, so this is part 2 of my sort of introduction to our brewing tests for pour-over drip coffee with a filter cone, manual pour-over drip. And I have to show you this because this is how we measure what our percentages are. Let me hold this here. Hopefully you can see that. So this is basically our brew recipe, where we decide, we put in our amount, and you're not going to be able to see this, but we put in, this is the George Howell's Extract Mojo program. So we put in our percent of ground coffee, which is 20 grams. We decide how strong we want it. We pick 1.20% because that is a norm that most people find coffee very pleasant at, full-bodied, etc. And then it gives us in weight the amount of water here that we use for our formula. So we're weighing our hot water, and then here it shows us this is a target, and we're shooting for this red little circle here. And if we actually get 1.20, it will be dead on at that point. So then you've hit your target exactly. So what that just does for us, and then we measure that with this device. So what that does for us is it just is telling us precisely what our parameters are to check our extraction. If we didn't like the flavor from it, if we thought it was weak but we actually hit our target, we could just change our formula to hit a higher percentage. Now the one issue with that is that you can correct any of these brewing processes by doing what they now call updosing. In espresso or whatever, you simply use more coffee and you get a stronger result. The problem is that you're compensating for other things in the brewing process that aren't right by updosing. So really what you want to do is shoot for the correct extraction of soluble solids from the coffee, to wash those out of the coffee, and hit that target. If you like it stronger later, you can just simply add more ground coffee to that exact process that you decide is a good brewing process. But updosing simply makes over-extracted, thick, heavy, but undersweet coffee that's not fully developed. Or just I think I said it. Okay, so one of the issues that we found in our initial test is pretty surprising to me. What we found was that the two imitation, the Hario plastic and the Bon Mac with the large holes in the center. Let's take a look at those. And this swirly pattern, which some people will tell you means something, doesn't, in my opinion, matter at all. Does absolutely nothing. If it does, it's so academic but it doesn't matter in real life brewing. The same with the Hario. What it does have is greater ridges. These brewers, and the ridges do matter because what they do is they hold the filter away from the side of the brewer. Now, the logic would tell me that that's going to pull coffee from all sides of the paper filter rather than just the tip of it, and you're going to get a really even extraction and be using more surface area of the filter. I'll tell you though, right now, in fact, this was the absolutely best device in our initial tests. This is just basically a very traditional single hole porcelain filter cone. This is the Bon Mac. We sell one that's the same thing. This is a number 2. So, how does that make sense? I don't know, because one of the theories with a cone filter is that you end up, for the reasons I said, without ridges, you end up extracting from the tip, and coffee in the tip gets over-extracted. However, because of the pace of the extraction, with the way we were pouring, we had a beautiful cup, and when we actually measured it, we found out it was exactly 1.20% soluble solids, so no mystery there. I wanted to point out too that people are selling really fancy pitchers and stuff for pouring. pouring matters. How you pour and your technique matters with a filter cone that drains right through. You can use something like this, which has a very accurate pour. This is a scientific, a lab beaker, cheap one. You know, there's like $60 kettles with these fancy spouts that allow you to control the pour. And the technique that people are using is to pour around, to do a 25 second, 10 second, whatever you want, blooming of the grinds, adding a small amount of water, and then start to pour in a circular pattern around without actually hitting the side of the paper filter itself, staying inside of that, but not pouring directly into the center. I don't know. Perhaps our pouring technique was poor, no pun, and maybe that's why we had some mediocre results. But I will tell you this, is that in the real world, people aren't going to have perfect technique, and this coffee with our technique, which was pretty good, made an incredible cup of coffee. So that was a surprise. The other result we got was that the Clever Coffee Dripper, we initially ground our coffee too coarse, and we progressively made it finer and got better results with it. So I was surprised, because I think of this more as a French press type brewing, and that you should use a French press grind, because it steeps the coffee and the water together. But actually we needed a finer grind, and we needed some stirring in order to hit our soluble solids. So I'm going to share the exact findings off in part 3.